and Mr. Sanjeev Pandey. Thanks both of you for your time. I'm really thankful to you, and your knowledge and experience sharing will really help. Just to introduce, Mr. Ajay Walimbe is working as a head acquisition business head of Phoenixarc Private Limited, part of Kotak Mahindra Group for over last 13 years, and looks into corporate advisory and business development. Is part of core management team of company and proficient in stress asset management through acquisition and reconstruction of NPA. Ajay has comprehensive experience in acquiring and restructuring of non-performing loans, drafting resolution plan in the process of IBC and stress asset management. Mr. Walimbe is a qualified company secretary, a law graduate, and has acquired master's degree in commerce with finance and accounting. He is also qualified insolvency resolution professional. He has diverse professional experience of over 30 years, having spent as a company secretary and in-house counsel with various companies including Novartis, Thyssen Group, Fiat, and DHL. He was instrumental in setting up legal and secretarial system in many companies including SIBA, Biochem, Thyssen Group, DHL, Legacy Service. He regularly writes in various leading newspaper magazine on vivid subjects including finance, investment, economic, and human relations. Maza Portfolio, an analytical weekly column in Marathi leading daily Lok Satta for over last 11 years. And he is very famous for this column because many people, when I said Mr. Ajay Walimbe, they said, oh, who writes in that Lok Satta, Maza Portfolio? You are famous for that.
Thank you.
Has gained tremendous popularity due to excellent performance and critical analysis of stock. Being well-versed and passionate about Indian stock market as an equity analyst, he has been regularly interviewed on various television channel, economic, stock, and investment. Welcome, Mr. Ajay. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I have another panelist. We have another panelist, Mr. Sanjeev Pandey. As regards, I think all IPs knows Mr. Sanjeev. Let's accept that. He is very well known. However, for our formal introduction, Mr. Sanjeev Pandey is the head of NCLT division at Stress Asset Resolution Group of State Bank of India. Mr. Pandey started his career with State Bank as a probationary officer, and during his 35 years journey with SBI, so long journey, he has worked on multiple assignments in commercial banking, project finance, business development, stress asset management, restructuring and resolution of distressed companies under BIFR, CDR, and IBC. Mr. Pandey also carries international banking experience as a head of treasury at SBI Singapore from 2009 to 14. He has been associated with IBC since inception and was deputed to IBBI during 2016-17 and coordinated in drafting CRP voluntary liquidation, IU regulation, etc. Mr. Pandey initiated the training of new insolvency professionals through a number of workshops at IBBI. He participated in various working groups on personal insolvency, cross-border, and group insolvency. As a head of NCLT division of SBI, Mr. Pandey is responsible for initiation and monitoring more than 1,000 SBI cases of CRP, my goodness, and of CRP and liquidation under IBC. His role includes drafting of banks' policy, SOPs, and guidelines on corporate insolvency, individual insolvency, feedback insolvency, and other areas of IBC. He internally provides expert opinion in IBC matters, manages empanelment of IPs and IP insolvency lawyers, and supports training of bank officials in IBC. Mr. Pandey has authored the official training manual on resolution of stress asset under IBC and other acts for SBI officials. Welcome, sir. Thanks a lot for your time, and we will ask you again and again for your valuable inputs.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll request Mr. Ajay to give some. Today's topic is Code of Conduct, Insolvency Professional. The first topic I selected this because honestly it is very subjective. Though code itself has many subjective, but this area is more subjective. and it touches to IP, but though it touches to IP, it affects entire process and all stakeholders if it is not followed properly. And that's why that I selected. And first I've taken code of conduct of IP. And we are fortunate, Mr. Sanjeev is also talking on code of conduct of COC, and that he is going to present. What I'll request Mr. Ajay to give his inputs or experience on the topic. And then I will request Mr. Sanjeev to talk on the topic and whatever presentation which we would like to hear from you. And all participants are requested be free to ask the question, discuss. It can be on chat or raise the hand. It will be helpful. Let's be an interactive session. Thanks a lot. Over to Mr. Ajay. Thank you.
Sure. First of all, thank you so much, Dipti, giving me an opportunity to participate in the beautiful this webinar. And, I like this because we had a lot of webinars from our institute also, but dedicated to IBC and two days before what we discussed, your objective and to impart this kind of training and knowledge to all our professionals, particularly ICSI. I sincerely thank you and also congratulate to you for taking such a fantastic initiative. I of course, I mean, as you rightly mentioned, even though I'm a company secretary, my role is diverse and I'm working with the ARC for last almost 13-14 years. And in this last 13-14 years, when the IBC code came in around 5 years back in 2016, we all were expecting, there will be a fantastic recovery, and there's a lot of opportunities also for any profession, whether it's ICSI, ICAI, ICMA, everybody. And still I recollect that from ICSI, I was one of the member who were discussing when that IBC code was coming in. So I was involved, fortunately, and in IDBI, SBI, all also were there, and also some of the ARCs like Edelweiss and RCIL. So during that discussion also, when we were looking at a scope, here I'm talking from the professional perspective, that talking about the scope of this profession, and also, to make a career in this insolvency profession. At that time, we were so gung-ho and we thought this is going to be a fantastic opportunity. I'm sure that many of you have given this exam, passed out, and those who are attending now must be already IP, or those who want to be, or must be in the pipeline of becoming an IP. But fortunately, though it has given a wide scope, I'll use the word unfortunately, most of our, not only our, but any of the members, those who are successful IPs, that is fine. But I could see that looking at today's topic, I mean, code of conduct, one is, Dipti and all the members, I feel code of conduct, of course, is most important. But before that, what comes in is knowledge. So once you have fantastic knowledge about the subject, and you are a qualified professional, whether it's a law graduate or the ICSI, then that code of conduct inherited in you, and you have to behave accordingly as one of the best professional. Now, when we talk about the code of conduct, the word is very simple. I mean, there should be the integrity, what kind of professional competence you should have, how you should maintain confidentiality or timeliness, or all that factors. You will not accept any gifts like 29A, that you will not employ any your relatives, etc., etc., etc. So that is one part. However, I think ultimate objective of the code you should look at. So what is the ultimate objective of the code? Finally, everything goes to ultimate objective of the code. What is the ultimate objective of the code? Ultimate objective code is of this optimum resolution, optimum recovery, and then give the best possible to all the stakeholders, whether it's a financial traders. Of course, I mean, we are talking about the secured financial traders. I am a part of the secured financial traders. But I am saying the code is not only for the secured financial traders. The code is for everybody, whether it's a shareholder, whether it's an unsecured financial creditor, whether it's a secured financial creditor, whether it's a operating creditor. I mean, yeah. So for everybody. And here, what is happening is most of the time, the interest of the financial creditor, which is secured financial creditor, is looked after. And hardly anything is given to unsecured financial creditor or operational creditor, etc. So, in my opinion, when you are an insolvency professional, so there your objective should be, you should not come under the pressure of COC. Finally, whatever COC decides is a binding on you, that is perfect. But you as a professional should be able to give an advice to COC that what is the ultimate objective of the code. And every person, every stakeholder should get his share. I understand that being a financial creditor, secure financial creditor, his share will be more. But that doesn't mean that while making an allocation, I'll make only 0.1% or 0.2%, or just for the namesake, I'll give something to unsecured financial creditor. I don't know. I mean, you must be aware, most of you, what happens is many a times the operational creditor files the claims get admitted. Not only claim, I'm saying he just files an NCLT, and when even though the company gets admitted in NCLT, what happens? The person, because he's an operational creditor, he gets nothing or hardly 1%. And the advantage gets to all the financial creditors. Now, though legally, they are of course entitled, etc. But I think being a IP, you should also look into that every stakeholder should get his, whatever the claim is, some percentage of the claim. Now I'm coming to the code of conduct. Of course, I mean, Dipti is going to cover most of the things, but looking at, my experience, one was about what I told you, even though as I mentioned, even though I'm a secured financial creditor. But the other thing is the knowledge of what? So wherever, you should be so confident, or you should be so transparent that suppose you are a chartered accountant or you are a company secretary. I understand that you may not have that much of technical knowledge, but a typical company, manufacturing company, maybe a pharma company, or maybe a pesticide company, or maybe some complex, blood drug company, that comes to you, and you are the RP there. In that case, when you are allocating that work, because now you have control of that company, of that unit. So when you are give that control to some professional, at that time you should be so transparent that the person who is going to run the company, because again, it is a stake of everybody. So that person who is going to run the company for that 6 months, 8 months period, whatever the period is, till that process is on, CRV process is on, I think you should look at that the company works or functions at optimum level. Every person, every employee of the company is regularly attending the office. He is not deprived of any of the benefit. And every person, whether, as I mentioned, the stakeholder as well as the workers, they are getting their share. So the knowledge of that, so you make, consult anybody and, appoint somebody who can understand the business. I have seen this particularly. I think there's some noise is coming. So if you can all be on the mute, I'll be happy. Yeah, thank you. So when I'm saying that, most of when you are appointing any professional, you should be so confident that my professional is going to definitely doing a good job, and he will help us in creating the optimum value, because finally that unit is going to be sold. Some resolution, resolution applicant is going to come and take down that unit, and he's going to invest there. Whether it can be a foreign investor, it can be a domestic investor, whoever it is. but then you can enhance the value within that 6 months, 8 months of that particular company or even the project. Here, actually, I like to, share my experience. What has happened is, I'm in one of the project which is under the IBC. We are the majority of the, I'm holding around 83% in that project as a financial creditor. And there's a foreign investor also. So, Dipti, I'm so happy that, one of our institutes, what I should say, he was a secretary earlier. Now he is a RP. Now he handled that project in such a professional and very good manner, wherein, we ensured that the uncompleted project, that is a road project, which we are completing now with perfect all profession, taking the help of the professionals, professional advisors, and also the engineers, constructors, whatever. And the project is going to get complete. Now, this is so important from the national economy. I mean, looking at the project is so important. The project is in UP. We are looking at UP and Bihar, and we are looking at the elections on our hand. At one side, the political pressure, everything is on.
My God.
But still, we are in the process. We are now on verge. We'll complete the project soon. And this is one of the successful resolution. One of the successful, and when foreign investor who has come in, who is pushing for funding the project, he is also so happy that his money is properly utilized and project is getting completed. And he's our member. I mean, the person who is a RP. This is what it is. So I'll not take much of your time. During the discussion, I'm available. Dipti, I think you should go ahead, and anything in between, I'm there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ajay.
Thanks.
Mr. Sanjeev, over to you, please.
Thank you. Very nicely putting the concept before IPs. I think we have most of the IPs in the audience, and many of them must have conducted some of the CRPs already. So I will only touch on the points, like I'll try to explain what are the role of COC, because in a CIRP, the IP's role and COC role intermingle most of the time. And the major challenge before IPs, as I see it, is the handling of COC. So I think Ajay ji has put it in a very succinct way, the expectation from IP, especially in understanding the cause of default, the business model of the company, because these are the primary things for reaching a resolution. Unless you understand the business, you cannot revive it. And this is a business which is already under stress, under problem. So it is like first you repair the car and then run it. So it's a stalled vehicle. You have to first repair it and then run it. So it is more difficult than even running a regular business, which itself is a challenge in India. So as I see it, because I was engaged and involved with the IBC since beginning, I have seen the development of this profession of IPs. And this first time any professional was called a professional in his name, like no doctor, engineer, lawyer is called a professional. They are by name called a professional. So we emphasize in IBBI that why you are called a professional, because a lot of expectation and the society has put a lot of onus on you to protect jobs, protect businesses, protect the creditors' money, protect government dues, everything. So a lot of burden is on your shoulders. That's why this was the first profession in India which was regulated also. So it started with regulated by IBBI, and now I think most of the chartered accountant companies most are getting regulated. Recently, some bill was introduced in Parliament with even more regulations. So that are the things to come. But IPs have started with the regulation, and I think I would say rather slightly high level of regulation, because the way things are moving. I have seen the regulations of IPs and IPAs growing from a small book to, I think, a thick book. Anyways, that is a job hazard you have to live with. A lot of time is going into compliance, I agree. But then this profession has given a lot of respect and a lot of independence to the to the chartered accountants, company secretaries. I have seen people like after taking a gold medal in CF this thing exam, and he's working for a firm and he's getting dictated. Here, at least you are in a position to act as a CEO, as a owner of the firm during CRP. You are the chairperson of a COC. You can guide senior bankers sitting there, and you can really try your hands at running the business, which is, I think, a hidden desire of many of the professionals who never get a chance to actually run a business. So this is one very good opportunity you get to really try your hands on a good business. And I think Dipti will agree with me. She has already handled a number of assignments and done a very good job at it. So that gives a lot of satisfaction. That is my learning from my 35 years of banking and almost 25 years in credit and distressed assets. That a good businessman is always very proud of his setting up a business, running it. And the tendency that every businessman who has defaulted is a thief or a fraudster is wrong. I have seen in my career hardly maybe 10 to 20%, maybe 30%. And those 30% are also because somebody is sleeping on the wheel. So somebody is not doing his job. The CA is not doing his job of properly looking at the balance sheet, the divergent transactions. The company secretary is not reporting the shenanigans to the NCA or other regulators. The banker is not doing proper inspection. So that's why all these fraud diversion happen. It's not only the blame goes to the promoter. He is a smart chap. He has to run a business. He has to run with 150 variables. So you cannot expect him to be honest all the time unless you are good at it. So I have handled so many largest to smallest accounts, but I was always used to give a message or my body language or my behavior that the borrower will always think that Pandey is looking at us. So he is, as a manager, he has an eye on us. So whatever you do, he will not miss it. That was enough for me that my account behaved properly, never had a problem, and many of them are very good friends of me even today. So coming back to the IP's roles, I would say IPs get a lot of power, and with power comes responsibility. So this code of conduct basically provides that responsibility, that way you go, what you can do, what you cannot do. I think Dipti, you will cover that in detail. I will only cover the pain point of the IPs, which is the COC. So let me, because many of the IPs have not really understood the role of COC. So them lose their independence to COC. There are cases there. And some of them try to encroach on the areas of COC. So these are two bad, I think, methods of things. You should know your limitations. At the same time, you should know your power so that nobody should encroach on your independence. So coming back to COC, I think COC wears a number of hats during CIRP, and which I think applies to the RP-IP also. Like they are the guardians of public interest, so they have to look after the company which is distressed. They are process custodians. They have to look at the doings and wrongdoings of IP. So they have to control the IP. Whatever he's doing, they have to do a kind of audit or due diligence. Then they act as towards their institution as secured financial creditors. So like if I sit in COC, I have to look at the interest of my bank. Then they are also acting as fiduciaries to other creditors sitting outside the room. So those operational creditors which Mr. Ajay was talking about. So COC has a responsibility towards them. And it is the role of IP also to ensure that COC, in their zeal for recovering their dues, their money, should not overlook the interest of the people sitting outside, that is operational creditors. Then they are also fiduciary to all stakeholders. So here comes like even the equity holders, the public at large, the employees, even the vendors, suppliers, everybody who lose business because of this company going down under. And then they indirectly have a control over the assets and business of the company through, of course, the IP. So I would say it is a relationship like a board of director and the CEO. So IP behave like a CEO and the COC have to work like a board. They have to keep control of the actions of the IP.
Right, correct.
So what are the expectations? Yeah. So the expectation from COC, basically, we expect the highest standards, duty of care, fairness, transparency, follow due process of law. And all these apply to IPs also. Why I am touching here, because same thing most of the time applies to IP as well as COC. Both have almost equal responsibility. IP has slightly more towards the court and towards the IBBA also, which COC right now, they are not bound by any regulation or code of conduct. And then the critical decisions. So now IP takes some decisions during COC, but they cannot be called critical, but he takes decision to preserve the value of the CD. Whereas COC is supposed to take some commercial decisions, and it starts with the decision at the outset when COC is constituted, whether to run this company to resolution or should we go straight away to the liquidation. I think this is a big question mark which many of the COC are not able to take this decision. And here comes the role of IP. As Mr. Ajay said, if you understand the business, because you are there for almost 1.5 months since the commencement of the insolvency, you should be able to guide the COC in this decision. This is a very, very critical and important decision, because now, as per the recent regulation, COC can decide at the first or second meeting itself to take the company to liquidation. Here comes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but there is some problem in your audio. So audience has also said that there is a problem in your audio. So maybe that connectivity, or if it fails, then you can switch off the video otherwise.
Okay, I'll switch off the video. Maybe that will help. Yeah.
Yeah, because Mr. Kapil has requested it. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you,
Is
sir.
it better now? Yeah. Is it better now?
Yeah, it is better.
Okay. So this decision of liquidation or resolution, this is something which the IP has to assist the COC in taking, and it depends on a lot of things, whether the unit is working or can be revived with some small investment, some interim finance. So here comes your role, that you should have understood the in and out of business, the possibility of the future. You have already kind of gone out to the market to see for interest in this unit. All those things continue, and this lead to this decision. Then comes the
Sir, one question I have in this.
yes.
So in that case, what happens that our insolvency professional visits on the first day, and there are 30 days available, and there in 30 days many things to be done. Now in that case, do you feel that when an insolvency professional give consent, of course it is mentioned in our handbook also that you should know the industry and all that. Is it advisable if it can visit also, if possible, and get maximum information about the business? It is helpful. What do you suggest? Look at it this option.
Yeah, basically what I suggest to the IPs I engage is that don't wait for the commencement to start your work. That is my first advice. The moment you are engaged by the bank, you go through the files of the bank, you talk to the CLO concerned or the relationship manager who has been dealing with the account for maybe 3-4 years. He will be able to give you a lot of background. You can also reach out to the borrower also, because no harm, because they are the people, and if they are genuine, so they will try to help. And then you go through document everything and start working on a at least information memorandum from that day. Don't waste time for waiting for commencement. So you start collecting information from whatever sources you can, and most of the information is already available with banks in their files. We have past balance sheets, we have their CMA data, their terms of sanction, everything. Then you can do so many things which will give you an upstart, because if you start after the public announcement, you lose a lot of time. So that is one message I would like to give here.
Right. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Then the first thing to understand business is that we have to understand why the business has failed, because your job is like that of a diagnostic or a doctor who is looking for treating some major ailment and some surgery. So you have to look for the indicators, how this business failed. In 1 month, I think you can do some investigation and reach some pinpoint, whether it is due to some fraud committed by the promoters, or it is due to some industry failure, is it due to some overhang of debt, is it due to some change in the regulation. So there are maybe 50 reasons, but if you are able to pinpoint 4 or 5 reasons, I think it will give a big leeway for formulating a resolution plan. And actually, as a IP, you should have in mind what can be a resolution plan. So that, because most of the time IPs think it is the job of the RA to bring a plan. No, when you reach out to people to sell this company or bring EOIs, they will ask you how to turn it around. Then you are the person, you can advise them. These were the problems, and this is how this can be turned around. So this is the value addition you can do if you understand why this business actually failed.
Right. Right.
Then you have to see like how to cut costs. That is the second important thing for IP to do after CRP. I have seen like in cases where in a unit there were one of the IPs, what he did not even discontinue the power connection. So most of these industries, they may be having a very heavy power load. And since the operations are at a very, very minimum level, maybe 10-20% capacity, so what you can do is look at that fixed cost, no? Because this big connection comes with a fixed bill. Maybe it may be running into few crores per month. The simplest thing the IP can do is go to the electricity board, talk to them, sir, I need only a few kilowatts. I don't need 5 megawatt or 2 megawatt today. So you cut down my size of my meter, my bill, and then I'll pay a lesser fixed charge. So these are simple things, like you have to protect the employees or depute some good security agency who can take care, do a good videography and inventory of the unit, so that later on, whenever somebody challenges you, you are removed or something is gone, you can show them 360-degree. No, you look at this. This was the condition I have taken. I also suggest that sometimes it is good idea invest some money on the upkeep of the unit, because most of the time when the buyer goes in, everything is covered in dust, there are a lot of cobwebs and all that. So nobody will be interested in buying this. If you are able to spend some 10-20,000 per month just in the cleanliness, just maintenance of machinery, just some jadu pocha, I'll say, I think that maintains the unit and gives a very good a view to the buyer. Okay, he is interested, he can touch a machine, he can try to run a machine. If it is already covered in like 2 inches of dust, nobody will just peep in. So, simple things, like if you want to sell a car, you take it to service first, you get it polished. Same thing you do here. So simple formulas, I say. Then understand the type of business of corporate director. So that is important, because it may be service business, it may be a conversion business, it may be a manufacturing. Manufacturing can be of multiple types. Unless you understand the business model intricacies and then convert maximum whatever you can do into cash, because the biggest problem during CRP challenge is to generate cash. And since till now, I think most of the banks are very, very reluctant to give interim penalty. Dipti maybe knowing better, and to share the good news.
Very big problem, sir.
But the good news is that we have yesterday come out with a guidelines for interim finance. So at least you can bank on SBI in case you require an interim finance. So we have come out with a product. So
okay,
it's formalized. You can approach it. Yeah.
Okay. Good news.
So then I would say COC takes some very, very significant decision, especially the commercial and non-commercial, like the raising the interim finance, what is the amount and all. So that is for COC to decide, and it's your job to convince COC that you really require interim finance. So first challenge for IP is to create that confidence in COC. Most of these COCs where there is a tussle between IP and COC, I see that my guy is telling me, sir, he's only interested in his fees. He's not interested in really turnover. So that kind of impression should not go to COC. Although we train our people in SBI, I think there are least problems for fees payment or anything coming from SBI. That much I'm sure, because we have proper guidelines in place. I ensure that because you are a professional, you should get paid on time. At the same time, you should not give the impression that I'm here to make money. I am here to work for the recovery, revival, and money is a byproduct, it comes automatically. So coming to the code of conduct of COC, although I have my really reservations on what the effectiveness of code of conduct will be, but presently there is no code of conduct for COC. But now, since IBBI has come out with a draft, the basic principle of the draft is the integrity, objectivity, transparency, adherence to timelines, and reasonable insolvency process cost. These are the fundamental on which the code has been drafted. I think some of these fundamental also apply to the code of conduct for the IB. As I said, the role intermingles between the two. Only thing, the challenge here is that the code of conduct has been drafted. I think most of you may have read it. Like I'll read a few paragraphs. A member of committee shall maintain integrity in performing its role, must not misrepresent any fact or situation, must maintain objectivity in exercising decisions, must disclose the details of any conflict of interest, not acquire directly, indirectly, not adopt any illegal and improper means. So all these things are, I think, code of conduct in IPs also. Only challenge here is that the banks who are the main members in a COC, they are regulated by RBI, not IBBI. So that is where the challenge is coming from. That's why I have my reservation how effective this code would be, or maybe it may prove to be counterproductive also, in the sense that it may lead to more litigation. Yeah, because the borrower or the OC or any disgruntled creditor will have more opportunity to take the COC to the court, which has not happened so far. So that, I think, will add to the already delayed timeline. You know how delayed the process has become. It has supposed to be completed in 270 days and normally taking more than 2 years now. Even admissions are taking more than 6 months to 1 year. So if we get into more litigation, more IAs, then more problems. But then at the same time, I am also a believer that some kind of regulation of COC should happen. Only consideration should be that who should regulate, because they are already a regulated entity by IBA, and it should not be a harsh regulation like in case of IPs. I think the regulation has gone slightly overboard. So the IPs are too scared to take decisions, which is, I think, should not be the purpose of a regulation. IPs have been given independence, and business is run with you have to take decision at the shortest possible time. You cannot wait for IBBI to approve or NCLT to approve something. You have to take decision on the spot. What has happened over a period of time, because of over-regulation, IPs have taken decisions. That is leading to some further loss of value.
Sir, in this case of guidance note to COC, or code of conduct, code of conduct to COC, which is a matter of debate and all that was there. It can be a guidance note or a kind of a handbook for COC. That way it can be published and it can be requested. So which gives some direction, or insolvency professional can at least say that as per your guidance, sir, can help you. So at least something is written, if it not compulsory, but at least it gives direction that though you are also there, it's a guidance to how you discharge the duty.
So basically, I think you are right. The best way it can be done, like we have a agency called IBA, Indian Banks Association. Okay, it is a kind of a voluntary body. All banks are member, but whatever decision IBA takes, most of the banks follow. So what our suggestion is that rather than IBBI coming with regulations and coming with some modification in the code, which will lead to conflict of interest, like two regulators regulating an entity, it is better idea that IBA floats a code of conduct, and which is binding on all the member banks. Automatically, banks will follow that. More problem, I think, is not of exactly code of conduct. Is in both for IPs as well as COC member. It is a lack of knowledge. So basically, so it is a good idea. Like you have started a very good initiative to sharing knowledge here. It is basically the lack of knowledge which leads to these kind of conflicts. So, and since IPs are supposed to go through the programs and some training hours compulsorily every year, but that is not for the COC members. And there are cases I have seen where COC member change in every COC. There are some banks.
Right, sir. That is another problem. COC member keep on changing. And they don't
keep on
study
changing.
our entire process.
Yes. Yes.
And they keep
So
on
that is
asking.
yeah. And then they don't believe in the IP also. Even if the IP is telling the right thing, they won't believe him. They say, no. We will go to our management. But for that, what we have done in SBI is we are putting a lot of stress on the training of the COC. First thing, whoever is going to attend the COC, he is trained every year. He has to go through a program in our college, staff college, at least for 3-4 days, write an exam on IBC. Then he attends. Second thing, yes, I have created a, just like your IP's exam, we have a 1500 question bank. He has to write an exam, online exam. So, yes. And then we are also thinking of providing some incentive in case he goes out of office and returns. So some kind of time allowance and something. And then we depute only minimum AGM level officer. So that is another thing we have done in SBI. Minimum assistant general manager rank officer is attending COC. And then one account is as an I nominate a person and he cannot avoid going to COC. He has to take permission. Or if he want to depute somebody else, he has to take permission, prior permission from the CGM. So in our bank, we have tried to curtail these kind of practices that every time new person going. But still, this is an ongoing process. Yeah, yes.
And another thing is also like IP, even COC members are not knowing actually how the business is run, what is the problem, how it can be handled, it can be solved, because it requires the communication, understanding, and faith on each stakeholder. Collectively only the solution can be brought.
Yeah. So there I will say, Dipti, two things. One is that had they knew how this business is done, it would not have reached the CRP stage. That is the first thing. Okay. Because I have handled a lot of distress account, and at that time there was no IBC. And I could turn that around just by sitting across with the promoter, listening to his problems, giving whatever possible assistance I can give, and telling him in conference that, boss, you can depend on me. I am there. I am your banker. I am your partner. Don't worry. You do business. Whatever help you need, I am here. These simple words make a lot of difference. If I tell him, no, you pay me tomorrow, I'll file a suit. I'll take you. Yeah. So had it been that kind of understanding, the account may not have reached this stage. However, when it reached this stage, the second thing is now how to make them more plausible and more positive to the resolution. The problem with the bankers is that they are still running in that consortium mindset. You may have attended some consortium meetings. Earlier, we were having consortium where multiple banks used to lend, and one is a lead bank, and there are some 10, 15 other banks. And whenever there is a consortium meeting, the promoter will present some developments and all, and they have tea, coffee, some kaju biscuit, and come back. Then after 3 days, minutes will come, he'll put up the minutes, and that's over. So now what is happening, they're still feeling that we are going to a consortium. They don't think that this is such an important job. Here, whatever decision you take or you don't take, that affects the viability of this unit. If you don't, and most of the time it is non-taking of decision, not taking a decision. So it's lack of decision or delay of decision, they are killing many of the companies. I think there the role of IP, I would suggest, because you have to live with the COCs, and we cannot train all the banks and all the members. I don't know who will sit next in COC. What you can do as IP, my suggestion would be, in the first and second meeting or in every meeting, whatever is the agenda, spend some 15-20 minutes or half an hour on briefing the members about the law, regulations behind that. Today we are working on a resolution plan. So this is the act. These are the requirements of a plan. This is section 30(2). This is what physically you require to do. So spend some 2, 3, 5 slides, give them training. Like at the outset, EOI, you tell them what is your role in EOI, what is my role in EOI. RFR, you give them a presentation after that. So every COC, just spare half an hour for a training session, do questioning, and after that you start the formal That would be, I think, good idea, because it is ready training right at the spot when it is required, that kind of knowledge. Otherwise, even we give training, after 2 days, everybody forgets what was taught in the training center. That is a big challenge. So these are some of my suggestions, I'd say. And code of conduct is coming. We are only recommending that don't make it something very hard, so that the COC members may further delay decision making. You have to put some legal onus on them, and the decision making will further get jeopardized. So you keep them free for further on account of their decision. Then I think their hands will be free. So these are some of my suggestions, I think, for the IPs, and I'm open. I'm here. I'm open to any questions. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
Dipti,
you,
I
Mr.
have one question.
Yeah, please.
I have a question to Sanjeev sir. Sir, you have
Yes.
already said that, most of the time it's difficult for COC to concentrate on the code. And basically, IP is, you can say, an engine to take the company to a possible resolution plan. But at the same time, all the guidance and approval is required from the COC side.
Yes.
So here there is always a kind of you can say conflict or conflict among the professional IP and the COC. COC is always looking at their interest, and IP is looking at the compliance, that there should not be any non-compliance. If you do, and COC side is always, they are protecting their interest. So how IP can balance between these two?
Yeah, okay. Very good question. So I would say 2-3 things. One is that you should try to step into the shoes of a banker or a COC member and just try to understand what the mindset is coming from, because he is an employee of the bank. He is responsible for recovery. He is not here for resolution, basically. So from his background, most of the time is coming from the recovery department of the bank. His management or his boss may be pushing him for some kind of recovery, how fast recovery we can, and maximization of recovery. For him, maximization of value means maximization of his recovery.
Exactly.
He's coming with that mindset. Yeah. And the second problem is that he doesn't have a big knowledge of law as you are having. He is not regulated also like you. So here comes your role, how you can get cooperation, you can convince him, you can educate him, and then bring them around and also show them that the collective decision is in the favor of all of you. That is the challenge you have to cover. That, as I said, they come with the mindset of a consortium, because I am interested in my share, my recovery. But you have to tell them, boss, if you look only for recovery, that's first thing, you lose. Because here, if you go for resolution, everybody wins. If it goes into liquidation, everybody loses. That is the first fundamental you have to explain. Second thing, while going for resolution, you have to understand that banking have basically some decision-making process. So person sitting before you in COC, he may not be empowered to take that decision. Whatever you may crave, you are delaying and all that. Ultimately, he will go back, put up a note to his management, then that note will go to some committee. That committee will approve. After 5 days, some minutes will be finalized by the committee member. Then only he can convey the decision. So what you can do here, and what we have done, I think, to curtail this kind of time, because we cannot change the bank's system. No, just because of IBC, we have a committee system, right? From a 5 crore loan is sanctioned by a committee, and 500 crore is also sanctioned by a committee, different level of committee. And the higher the level of committee, the frequency of sitting are low. So the highest committee sits maybe once a month. Second highest may be sitting twice a month. So those 15 16, and then for the committee, if you have to have a proper proposal, this proposal may be running into few pages, like 15, 20, 50 pages. So he has to draft, write proper English, explain everything. That takes time. So what you can do is assist them in making such proposals first thing. What we have done, we have divided this decision by COC into 2-3 categories. And to expedite decision making in COC, we have left most of the non-critical decision with the person sitting in CO. So that is the SBI, what we have done. Only 5 decisions like sanction of a resolution plan, rejection of a resolution plan, and taking the company to liquidation without inviting EOI, sanction of interim finance, and release of security during the CIRP. These are 5 decisions to be taken by the sanctioning authority. Only for 5 he has to go to the top bosses. Otherwise, for routine decisions, we have delegated power. Most of the power, like fees of IP, engagement of professional, all are possible to be voted by the person sitting in COC. And these are the decisions where most of the pain point come. We have left it to the person sitting there. Then there are some semi-critical decisions where like change of IP is there, or some other major changes. So that goes to a senior officer like a CGM or a DMD, which the person sitting in COC can send a note and get approval, even get approval on phone also. So this is the TOT time is maybe 2 days, 3 days. For the final decision like resolution plan, rejection of plan, all that, we need at least every banker, as per my sense, would require at least 25 to 30 days. So what you can do, 2-3 things. First, don't spend on wasteful things like EOI. You are taking 90 days to come up with 90 days lost. Why not decide, prepare IM upfront? Within 10 days of constituting a COC, share the IM. Okay. Then another 10 days, you provide a EOI. This is the draft EOI. Work on evaluation. So within say 45 days of the process, or maybe 60 days, try to issue a EOI, so that you have remain whatever days, wherever even delays are there, your process is not frustrated because of that. Because I can tell you whatever we can crave, but ultimately not every bank can work at same speed. They will work within their systems. So you have to align the process so you can cut down time in your process. And I think now a lot of digital thing is possible. Like there are programs or softwares available in the market where you can do the entire process digitally, including compliance, holding of meetings, filing of reports, everything can be done. One is floated by, I think, IU, NESL. Another one is also available. I think use those technologies and those tools, but try to cut down on your time or the upfront time, so that the process start right from the day 60. So you have another maybe 210 days available to take care of all delays, go for multiple EOIs. You can do so many things. So that is my suggestion. I think.
So only one thing I will like to add here, Sanjeevji, what you are saying, and the question was asked. Yes, I mean SBI, what decision-making process in your organization and what is happening in the COC is really welcome. But I think other banks, should follow the suit of SBI, which every time whatever SBI does, other banks follow. Accordingly, they should also implement, because what my experience is that many a times, even though the decision make the small things also, where decision is required immediately, there some of the banks are asking further time, and they are calculating the holidays in between, and therefore even for voting it takes 4 to 5 days. And particularly when there are foreign investors, they don't like this, that the time is for voting also I'm taking 6 to 7 days. And therefore I think the decision making process in the COC, typically with any bank, I'm not just saying in nationalized bank, but even for the private banks, they sometimes take a stand that I need to go and discuss in the committee, etc. But these major points what you mentioned are absolutely right, wherein for acceptance of resolution plan, or for whether the company has to be admitted in liquidation, etc., that definitely everybody has to go back to his office and discuss and come back. But certain decisions, at least they should have that kind of power, and they should take the decisions immediately at that time.
What I can only say that we are ready to share our guidelines. So every bank is open.
Yeah.
I am very ready to share my circular. They can just copy. We have done it. We have delegated powers.
In fact, sir, I was thinking, why not IB is coming out with this kind of guidelines or powers, or our institute can
IBBI
Exactly.
also came out with something like this sometime back, and actually we followed their guidance only. They came out with 2-3 kind of decisions. We have carved out different decisions, and ultimately only 3-4 decisions are left to the senior officer. 5 decisions to the top committee, competent committee, and remaining 30, 40 decisions, right from payment of fees, change of IP, so many things are given to the person on the spot. So that way, we have tried to cover this problem.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I think it's like that, like to IP also, we wish that they have freedom of decision. So even the bankers representative, they
Yes.
are also has hands bound. So if they are given some freedom, rather they feel also that yes, they can take decision and they will be involved in the process rather than for everything going up. Rather, if that gives, they feel involved and some contribution they can also give. I think that satisfaction also they get.
Yeah, that motivation, that kind of motivation.
Right,
The
right.
problem, Dipti, is that there is a problem that even if you give powers to people, still they want some kind of comfort. No, sir, you just write 2 lines and I'll be there. So
Yeah.
there lies the problem.
Actually, that is on the attitude of a particular individual.
Yeah.
Like that.
No, some fear of unknown that if
Understood.
I take decisions.
So I know what is happening, sir. We all know.
Then lack of knowledge, of course, lack of knowledge also.
Sure.
But even if we have given the power, still they many times don't take decisions. They come back to us. Sir, should we pay this fees? Should we pay liquidation costs? Arey, bhai, it is in your power. Why don't you pay?
True.
Those kind of
So
things.
it's like IP, they have also to take a risk and decide and create a proper record for taking the decision. That
Yes,
they have
even IPs are lacking in taking decision, especially in liquidation process. I have seen, and half of the burden on NCLTs are because of IPs, because of the litigation started by IP. Everything they go to NCLT, sir, advise on this. Your NCLT member knows less IBC than IP, I think. He only, yeah, that is my sense. Because he only listens to the lawyers and understands the limited topic and then decides. So many of them may not have gone through the entire IBC. You are the person who has cleared an exam, who has undergone a 52-hour, 55-hour training, who is day in and day out dealing with IBC. So even then they want to go to NCLT to take a decision from them. So should I distribute the liquidation money? Arey yaar, you are there for distribution. Why you need a NCLT approval for that? So these kind of things, I think IPs also should be sensitized. You should take decisions.
Right.
right.
So, as you rightly said, that many times we have observed, IPs have observed that a COC member coming and sitting there practically have no power whatsoever. And for every which way, every decision they said, we'll come back to you. So that is why, it is creating some kind of a problem for the IP to run the show. And another issue which is facing by IP from COC side is kind of a lack of confidence. And that's why you have rightly said that both should coordinate their efforts initially itself so that they can run the show
Yes.
in a proper coordinate manner.
Right. And now
What I would say that we can share those decisions to be taken by the person on the spot. So maybe you can tell him there and then, sir, this is in your power. That much we can do. The decision taken by the COC member. At least you can tell him you don't have to go back to anybody. This is in your power. You can take this. So that much we can do, I think, to assist. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And now further the COC is required to take action because it is proposed that even not only cost but appointment of professional will be also prior approved by the COC. So that is also another requirement.
Yeah, so all these decisions are normally taken by the person there and then. No need to go back to any authority. And then you always distribute an agenda. Even if some decision is required, some higher this thing, so he should go back with the power. No? He should. So what I suggest you distribute the agenda 4, 5, 6 days before, so that he gets time to take the proper approval and come back to COC with suitable.
Right. Any question from participant, please? I think there is no one. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sanjeev, for your so many inputs. I have noted down whatever advice you have given. So that all advice was really helpful because it's
All these
really
things come from my experience, and I'm happy to share my good and bad experiences with you all. And I am the one person who is on the side of, I would say, IPs. So I am always there to support. I always give this message that whoever has any problem, right from non-payment of fees, anything, my number is available widely. You can call me. No issue. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for such a cooperation and understanding of insolvency profession, sir. As usual, you are always there with the profession. And now, I think since no question, we will start our PPT on the code of conduct for insolvency professional. What we will do is that we will just run through the code of conduct at present, because it's 6 o'clock and I will run through the code of conduct, and then we will have a kind of next webinar which will be on it will be on 15th April again at the same time 5 p.m. and we will take 2-3 codes in detail with decided cases and analyze each and every code, and we will have a very good detailed discussion on each code. At present we will just overview it. Okay, so just give me 2 minutes. I'll share my PPT and we'll start the presentation. It is my PPT is visible.
Not yet.
It is visible now. PPT is visible.
Yes, yes.
Yes, friend. Thank you. So, friends, basically, code of conduct for insolvency professional. There are lot many cases and lot many concern on this topic, and it is quite subjective. Not only that, IBPI has during the lockdown also come out with handbook on ethics for insolvency professionals, ethical and regulatory framework, along with UK government and their IBC agency. And there was a very long webinar on this topic also, that what should be taken care. Because honestly, all IPs are with a very vast experience in their professional life, and then entering this profession. Already this profession has lot many stress and requirement of taking decision, very critical decision at a difficult situation, handle different complex situation. Again, as everyone knows, the remuneration many times is not readily available. And after that, before that also, after doing all that, there can be case filed against you or complaint filed in IBPI, which really depresses the IPs. Initially, all IP feel that, but I put that way that if you are transparent, honest, with the motive of the purpose of the code for discharge of your duty you act, then you should not fear. It's a part and parcel of this process, because there are many conflicting interests, and the person whose interest is not satisfied will incline to take this shortcut of filing a case against IP or filing complaint in IBPI. And we have no choice but to protect ourselves. That is the part of this profession. But we should concentrate on discharge of duty. I just put that way. I instruct my entire staff that whenever you take any action or inaction, just keep in mind, tomorrow is the question why you have done or why you have not done. So create a proper record for all your action or inaction. You have no mouth, you have just hand to write. If that way it works, then it protects. Though still there is always a deficiency, there can be mistakes, but that should not be bad intent. So we have to see this code of conduct is care, precaution, attention, and no bad intent. With this, let's start with the code of conduct insolvency professional, which is the part of schedule of insolvency regulation. And as we know, this we have adjudicating authority like NCLT, IBBI, and also disciplinary committee of IBBI, and information utility and IP agency and insolvency professional. Now, first schedule to the code of conduct, it says what is the code of conduct, what should be the code of conduct. First is IP should have integrity and objectivity, independence, impartiality, professional competence, representation of correct facts, timeliness, information management, confidentiality, occupation, employability, remuneration costs, gifts, and hospitality. Let's take one by one. Integrity and objectivity. As per the schedule of IP regulation, IP should maintain integrity. Integrity, honesty. And he should not misrepresent the facts. Means what he understands, what he got the information, he should present as it is, what it is understood by him. That's why the IP should be able to communicate the facts. I will put that IP should be only speaking facts and the law. Facts and the law. And when you correlate facts and the law, and then you take action and you give justification by relating facts to the law, and that's why justifying your action or inaction, then you are in a right direction. So that's why the IP should be able to communicate properly. It should be objective with the focus of its discharge of duty. Disclose conflict of interest. This is very crucial, that conflict of interest. What is conflict of interest? When the conflict of interest is that when you are able to influence or get benefit in one capacity by taking decision in another official capacity. So your official capacity is as an insolvency professional, if you take or not take any decision, you yourself, either directly or indirectly, is able to gain some benefit, there is a conflict of interest. So it should be avoided. But if you come during this process that there is a conflict of interest, you should disclose it immediately. So disclose it immediately and then get it ratified, whether you should continue, not continue, and let the COC, which is the decision, commercial decision power, can decide it. Now, what handbook says that? Integrity emphasizes being straightforward and honest in all professional and business relationship. Why it is written business relationship? As a IP, you will be running the business also. So you should be honest and straightforward. Fair dealing and truthfulness. Most important attributes of a professional for which he is accountable is integrity in character and conduct. Everywhere it is repeatedly talking integrity, which is saying straightforward and honest. Integrity and objectivity are fundamental principle of ethics of IP. So you should be honest and with the object of discharging your duty only. He should consider himself as an ambassador of entire ecosystem and perform his duty towards the client. And he should remember he has large responsibility towards lot many stakeholders. And no conflict of interest should happen with any stakeholder, and he should be involved above the letter and spirit of the standard and law governing the professions. Objectivity requires IP not to compromise professional or business judgment because of bias, caution, conflict of interest, or any. So you should be transparent and honest. Don't get affected by anything anyone and any situation. It should be based on the situation, your duty, law, and the best interest of all the stakeholders. It should be visibly demonstrate his impartiality by being transparent. So disclose all the information, what you have, why you are doing this. Being collaborative and consultative. You should not consult one of the creditors. There are so many decided cases you have taken by mail, even though in COC, there is only one FC. You cannot take approval on the mail. There should be proper COC. Please remember, in COC, though promoters or shareholders are not part of COC, they are entitled to it. So COC is a separate institution and decision-making field. Collaborative, involve each and everyone. As Mr. Sanjeev has mentioned, that you have to educate, you have to inform in advance, provide the information in advance that why this decision will be taken, what all should be considered, what will happen if we don't take the decision, and why it is so important, what process you have followed to take that decision. If that all is mentioned and involve each and everyone who is there in COC, then it can be taken decision. We need to be, IP need to be consultative and connected to each and every person as a part of the COC. All decisions are arrived by active consensus. So allow each one to speak, but IP should know that how much and what should be allowed to be spoke and involved by giving proper information. Independence, impartiality, again it is coming, honesty, integrity, independence, impartiality. No favorism, no favorism. The first issue says that maintain complete independence. Ensure IP or his relative don't indirectly acquire any asset. Avoid assignment of any, any assignment to me or his relative or partner's relative or anything, or corporate debtor, its related party. If disclose whether he has pecuniary personal relationship with any stakeholder, this is very important. As IP, we have to keep eye that whether, because we all are also professional. It's not that we are doing, certain people are doing full-time this profession only, but you are with other profession also. And there can be some transaction which you may not be aware. So one has to be careful. It's like in Companies Act, we say related party transaction. The director check whether I am related or not. The same way we have to check here whether we are as a firm, as an individual, has any relationship with any stakeholder or their related party. So if, then immediately disclose it. Disclosure is enough. What is to be observed that as regards relationship with corporate debtor, IP become ineligible. But relationship with the other stakeholder, there is a disclosure. These are the major two differences. Any relationship with CD make you ineligible. Directly, indirectly, related party to this, there's long list. Relationship with any stakeholder, disclose it. There can be conflict of interest, so that should be analyzed. So this should be understood. This is the difference. Same way if you are connected in any way. And so that's why before accepting your appointment as insolvency professional, it should be ensure that appointment is approved, remuneration has been approved, and mode of disclosure at the time of his appointment. In one of the case of disciplinary committee, what is done that IP has passed two resolution in first meeting that appointment separate and remuneration separate. COC approved appointment, not remuneration, and then it took a lot of time. So it was observed that why can't there be a common resolution? So this way, then if it is a common resolution, then it can be said that at a one stroke you can approve the appointment with the remuneration. So these level orders are being given. So one has to be very careful. Now, representation of correct facts and correcting misapprehension. So as I mentioned, what you understood and what the facts you have, always share with the COC or stakeholder, whatever. Take their views also. Take the information each COC member has. And if any misapprehension, it can be from IP angle, from the facts. The facts is whether it is a complete facts, IP don't know. So if we share the facts with all stakeholders, you get more facts, which turn out that what impression you have created, what apprehension you have created may be wrong. So you have to have correct impression. And I'll just share small example. I was appointed under Section 10 for one of the in earlier days for corporate data. And there was a fire, that's why the insurance claim was given 1 year later, and it was a consumer product. So they into loss and all that thing story. But you have impression that the promoter will be defaulter and all that. So you doubt that each sharing the information. And then when actually I visited the factory and I seen the actually fire happen and they redone. I talked to the surrounding people without their knowledge and all that, and it turned out to be well. And at that juncture, the promoter was showing me the machinery, and he was touching with such an emotion. And certain products were left over, and he was looking at and had tears in the eyes, secretly. This all shows that no, they are honest. They have gone through a very bad patch in their life. So you have to work with your facts and your understanding, and same pass on to the other stakeholder as well. Again, forensic audit report, you have to form the opinion, take the opinion, share with the COC why you want to do, and then take a opinion whether forensic audit or transaction audit should take place. Duly inform all the concerned stakeholder, everything what is take decision. As regards while giving information to stakeholder, we shall not conceal any material information or make any misleading statement. Don't make any misleading statement. This IP can come into problem if it communicate the judgment. You communicate the facts, you communicate the law, correlate each, and give your reasoning why this should be done. Then it can be a proper communication. RP should be unbiased and diligent. Timeline, boss, everyone knows everything is time, everything is time. We have to be on toes. We have no choice, because let's accept that we have to say that the others are doing late, others are doing, no point. We have to follow. We are the pioneer of this process, and we have to be quick. We are on to the toes, and we have to accept and try to reduce the time which we take to the maximum possible extent with proper support function we have. Now, as per schedule also, you have to adhere to the timelines, not act with malignant intention and negligent in performing duty. Normal CIP period is 180 days, 90 days, and of course, total 330 days with the legal proceedings. Overall timelines also mandates timeline for various other process. So you should be ready before your IP process, as what is message we are getting is at the time of signing only. Before signing, you have to study this, because that gives you idea that what all infrastructure involvement will be required for this client and this corporate data. What should be my accordingly fees, because that kind of infrastructure I require, that kind of risk I'm taking. And then after that also you have to study that company well in advance, so that when the process starts, you are ready with every information for taking or not taking action. Professional competence, boss, we have to keep on update about not only the amendment in the law, circular, notification, and of course decided case laws. It's continuous. Every day we have to update. And that's the reason, honestly. And what happens is, even after updating all this, you have to apply when you actually act. So you have to correlate the things and come to the conclusion. And in few fraction of seconds you have to take a decision that whether I should take this action or not action. You don't get many times enough time or that luxury of reading the books and all that. So that's why you should be on your toes as regards your knowledge. And you should be updated with the current judicial pronouncement. That gives you idea what is the judiciary is thinking. And that's why we are going to cover decided cases maximum for all each topic in this, and we will cover in code of conduct. So the decided case gives us idea that how this law or any part of circular or wording be interpreted, so that it gives the meaning to the action as per the code of conduct. Confidentiality, yes, boss, because we will come to know many things about the our corporate data, not only that resolution plan, which gives lot of information about the applicant also. So that's why it should be confidentiality has to be maintained, not only with the outsiders, but within the stakeholder also. Because at particular stage, you have to share the information to some person, but not like for corporate data. When the valuation to be shared with whom? And then each time one has to take care of obtaining NDA or confidentiality clause. Not only we have to protect our, ensure the confidentiality of our own staff, but also of the corporate data. There is a requirement that we should have regular session on judicial decision taken. Yes, on each topic we will discuss all judicial decision taken, so that we can form our opinion. Confidentiality must ensure that information relating to IP process, liquidation, and entire may be maintained all the times. Occupation, employability, and restriction. It's understood that you cannot be employed. You are boss practicing professional, but yes, as on today's still, if you are practicing another profession, you can do that. So if a person is a lawyer, advocate, or chartered accountant, company secretary, or any other profession, they can carry out this profession along with the IT profession. But no employment can be taken. Okay, and of course, the one is also necessary that the IP or the relative should not take any employment or provide any professional or take any professional services to any stakeholder or court creditor having more than 10% voting power, or resolution applicant, or corporate debtor, or related party until the period of 1 year elapsed from the date of cessation of CRP under him. Now, one will point out, if one observe, it says CRP period, it does not say liquidation period. So whether liquidation, but you have to go with the spirit of the law that even the liquidation period is covered. It is not only CRP period. And of course, the IP should not engage any related party in the connection for any this process as a professional, as not provide any services to the related party, and it should not conduct any business which is not which consistent with the profession. That's okay. Then we can move. Information management. This is very crucial because ensure that all communication to stakeholder, whether in the form of notice, reports, updates, directions, clarification, is made well in advance, which Mr. Sanjeev stressed upon very well, and in a manner which is simple, clear, and easily understood by the recipient. Because we know IBC law, but the other stakeholder do not understand the IBC law. So it should be very simple and it should be explained from their point of view. That is necessary. It should be ensured that written contemporaneous records for any decision taken and reasons for taking decision and information and evidence in support of this. This is a very, very crucial part for IP to perform duty. If you do that, then even if anything comes, because you can't stop anyone not to file the case or complaint, but you can surely protect if you follow this. And that is very crucial. that, and it is mentioned in the handbook that it's not only important that the IP should be independent, but it should exhibit that he is independent. How you can exhibit you are independent? By following this information management process. It should not make any private communication with any particular stakeholder unless it is required, and that also you disclose that you had it. So if anytime there is a confusion, at least disclose and you inform everyone. Okay. It must appear corporate, available for inspection, investigation. Means IP should provide all the information required by IP agency, IBPI, even the creators. And it should be available for any inspection, investigation by the inspecting authority, IBPI. And must available to provide information for study, research, which IBPI continuously carry out, and they carry out data management. So the same should be provided. Though many times IPs has to do in a very limited period and repeatedly, now it is reduced to great extent, but we have no choice. All the information relating to assets, finance, operations, receivable claims, provides access to relevant information. There is a complete symmetry of information among entitled stakeholders while maintaining costs. So actually you create a pile of data and information, and your information is crucial. You are the channel by which information get passed on to other stakeholders. You take it from corporate data, you take it from outside resources, you may take it from the government agency being authorized. The same efforts you have to take. You can take the information from other stakeholder like your chartered accountant of the company, or corporate data, or the creator of corporate data, or employee. Create that information base, pass on to the possible resolution applicant, to COC and others. So this is very crucial function. So it is very important that IP should gather the required information, collate it properly, ensure that it is correct and factual in representation it gives, and then pass on in a simple language, understandable manner to the real people. These are the rules for the regulation for the years to maintain the record. As you know, we are required to maintain physical and online. This is a real challenge because you have to maintain for 8 years and we have to maintain in both mode. Remuneration and cost, always this is question that, what remuneration should be paid and cost. To be frank, BLRC report says it should be driven by market. We don't want to fix anything. Let the market come and market will settle by itself. And it's initial period, it will happen. Like any other profession, over the period it will be settled and the stakeholder will decide what is to be paid based on the, capability and lot of criteria. UK government has laid down the criteria for the remuneration, though the similar is applicable. The eligibility, competence, experience of IP, the kind of assets, kind of creditors, volume, the kind of business, the specific risk to the business, the complexity, the responsibility. Based on this remuneration and the kind of efforts this IP will put, that all justify. And that's why IP should create a parallel record for all his efforts that justify the remuneration. That helps to solve all the problems. I mentioned this, I need not repeat this again. Gifts and hospitality, this should not be taken. This will be the chances that, by a stakeholder, this will be given. It happened rapidly. Please do not take, though intentionally, no intention is there. If you come to know, you should immediately disclose to the all stakeholders that this haven't happened, I have not taken anything, this all. So that protects you from everything. And this should be avoided, not only you, your relatives, any related party, no one from any stakeholder gift should be accepted. That's all from my side. Thank you, boss, for this short presentation. You all were there. That's helpful. And we will take now this code of conduct, how practically it can be implemented and what will be the problem, what are the decided cases of disciplinary committee. Everything will take one by one in all subsequent sessions so that in detail we can discuss it. Anything from panel or anything from participant, please?
Nothing, Dipti. It was fantastic. I mean, I really enjoyed it. It was learning for me also. And I'm sure, I mean, every participant here must have enjoyed it. And there are a lot of learning here. I mean, one from, of course, USL, what presentation you made, and also from Mr. Pandey. So it was superb.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone. And I think we should close this. Mr. Sanjeev, thanks a lot for your inputs. Mr. Ajay, thanks a lot for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thanks, every participants. Thanks for all your time. Thank you. And
Thank you.
See you all on 15th at 5 o'clock. We'll share you the link. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.